So this is the Soul Matters Leaders Lab for all the RE leaders thinking about December. And the theme is stillness. What does it mean to be a people of stillness? And after this week, I tell you, I could use a little stillness for next month. Oh, my goodness. So let me make sure. There we go. There are 4 lessons, and we are calling them lessons this time because it's sort of like, here's what you learn. Like, if we are people of stillness, step away from busyness. If you notice, it's always sort of a verb-based title. I shouldn't say always, because sometimes I change my mind. But the 4 themes are step away from busyness, listen to the voices of angels, rekindle hope by watching for the light. And I'm sure you can guess what that one is. That's winter solstice. And wait for freedom, which is the celebration of Watch Night, also known as Freedom's Eve in our Black church traditions. So what we do on these calls is do challenges. Well, no, I do an overview for about 15 minutes, my perspective of what this packet is saying and some of the highlights of the things I found that I don't want you to miss. Then we'll do challenges, opportunities, takeaways, and solutions for each of us. And if you want to lurk, that's fine too. You don't have to be put on the spot. So in those 4 lessons, step away from busyness is an opportunity to look into our first source, the personal sense of wonder and awe. Listen for the voices of angels is a way to lean into our 4th source, which is our Judeo-Christian heritage. It's looking at insights we can get from the traditional Christmas birth legend story. I mentioned rekindled hope is winter solstice, and wait for freedom leans into our 8th principle and our anti-racism session. Because as you know, we're writing 1 session a month, specifically anti-racism, to lift up all of our learnings and our opportunities for our families to do this work. So there's going to be some grief in our families this holiday season, really Thanksgiving until after New Year's, isn't there? This will be the first part of the year that we haven't been able to be with each other. Here in Colorado, where I live, the governor's pleading for people not to get together at Thanksgiving because our COVID rates are going out of the roof. And yet people are, because that impulse is so strong. So the grief that I can't be with my family, our families can't be with each other if they're going to choose to make that decision, is there. And I think our stillness theme can help, because in stillness, what we want to do is find peace and comfort. So we're going to give them some coping skills to deal with this holiday season under COVID. Now, January, I just finished writing. I think it's posted, but I'm not quite sure if it is yet. We said, imagine a world without COVID. And I was hoping that this would be the case because the whisperings of the vaccine were coming along back then when I wrote it. But now I just saw in New York Times, Fauci is saying maybe end of April. So the session in April of imagining a world without COVID, my goodness, maybe it will come true in just a few months. And it gives me goosebumps to think about that. So we keep our fingers crossed. But that's January, but I couldn't help but make that connection for you. So we're going to be looking at the quiet stillness, the theme. Quiet stillness. Oh, I've got a few people in the waiting room. There we go. The theme is finding our balance in stillness. And I did want to mention, since this is the season of pageants, and you see a lot of chatter on the UURE page about who's got this pageant and what are we going to do about pageants. And it was Sam up there, Sam Dickerson, who suggested the family connection activity of a Stuffie pageant. So Stuffie seems to be a theme. There was a Stuffie Halloween pageant, and a Stuffie overnight. So why not have a Stuffie pageant? We'll see what happens there. Okay, I also wanted to lift up the first session, Busyness, there's a direct connection to my Toolbox of Faith, Tapestry of Faith program that I wrote for 4th, 5th grade, because I grew up with my father's power tools running in the basement, you know, that big saw, the drill bit, the lathe. And so I'm asking you to find somebody in your congregation with power tools to run them in the background, to just notice with the kids what it sounds like when you don't have stillness. So just like the comedians do, you take it to the exaggeration and you run that power drill and you're like, okay, we just heard something really loud. What's it like when we are practicing silence and stillness? So that's my brain downloading onto you. Get somebody with some power tools and then advertise, hey, so-and-so with their power tools is going to come on, and, you know, see how that goes. Then there's the couple of songs that I'm playing over and over. One is Leah Morris, our lovely commissioned songwriter and folk singer. She does a beautiful hand play thing with her children, like she always does, on stillness. And that one, plus I Wish I Knew How It Felt to Be Free, which is done with Watch Night, are the two songs going through my brain for stillness. So may the music of stillness whisper its way into your heart for this season. I hope you say that to your family sometime. Whisper its way into your heart. And here's a little opening. Friends, stillness allows us to perceive that which is truly precious. It calls us back to our humanity. When we pause and find that sacred point of balance, that which is precious in life lights up as if it's in neon. We are able to notice that which truly deserves our focus, our care, our commitment, and our love. And when we are surrounded by and connected to those precious things, a type of magic happens. We suddenly know ourselves anew. We suddenly feel at home in ourselves and the world. That sense of home can calm us or it may challenge us. But either way, life comes alive again. So home, maybe that's the true aim of this month. Maybe stillness is not an end, but a means. It's a means to the road that leads us home. And that centering feeling is what we want to do to create that balance in the grief that we will be feeling without our usual holiday things. I wanted to lift up in the Step Away from Busyness session, the idea of the Christmas pledge. I always use Unplug the Christmas Machine, which is a book. It's been in print since the 90s, and it's still as relevant today as it was then. The idea being that Christmas has become a commercial, media-soaked, sort of distracting time of life and stressful rather than a celebration of stillness, peace, and beauty. And so the two authors go through, there's a whole workshop which is free online now, and I put a link into the Family Connections section if you want to use it. But the essence of it is to help the family take a Christmas pledge. And I use the Christmas pledge from Unplug the Christmas Machine as a prompt for this first session. The Christmas pledge is to remember those who truly need my gifts, to express my love in more direct ways than gifts, to examine my holiday values in light of my deepest values, to be a peacemaker, and to rededicate myself to spiritual growth. Those 5 things are such good soul work for this season, instead of the message that the rest of commercial world is giving us, which is, oh, to be happy, you have to buy things. And the quality of what you're buying is the reflection of your love. And so they're saying, this is crazy making, folks. Let's get back to this simple thing. And so when we get into this idea of a Christmas pageant and to try to make things the way they always are. And I know I did a Christmas Eve Christmas pageant for 13 years straight, and it turned into this huge family celebration of 3 services with standing room only at every service, 3, 5, and 7, and all this stuff happening. And we're not going to do that, are we? But maybe this is a time to say, guess what? We're not going to substitute a Christmas pageant. We're going to substitute a time of making this Christmas pledge and deepening our spiritual maturity. It's just a suggestion. If you say, maybe I won't do a Christmas pageant, what does that open up? I mean, you still could do a Zoom Stuffie Christmas pageant. If that's fun. But I do like to, like I said before, do the extreme and say, what if we don't do that Christmas pageant? What does that make room for in our being a people of stillness? So then, so I suggest in that stillness one to make a chalice snowflake. Woo! There's directions on Worship Web. Now, you can say to your children when you're trying to make this, or even adults, look, even the author couldn't even do it right. So there's my first time. I cut off the flame, right? I was like, dang, what happened? What did I do wrong? I folded it the right way. And then I tried a second time. This is a lesson in patience. And this time I got the little chalice flame down there, but nothing on the top. So 3rd time's a charm. Let's see if it worked. This is what it looks like. You cut it into something like this. And whenever I work with children and it's hard, I tell them this is a lesson in patience. So even the author of this thing had to do it 3 times, and she's an adult. Well, then the other thing you have to do is unfold it very carefully. And it's like, uh-oh, did I do it wrong? It's like a big mystery. So there's you can see there's what it would look like halfway. It's not looking too bad. All right, I'll open it up. And look, I got chalice flames. Yay, here, let me flatten it out. So there you go. There's that beautiful, doesn't it look like stillness? Snowflakes remind you of stillness. And imagine that hanging in trees and in the windows of all your families. So there you go, chalice snowflake. And then to go along with that, there's a wonderful story. I tell you, I've used it before, but I can't help it, about Snowflake Bentley in the 30s. He collected all these beautiful photographs of snowflakes up in Vermont. It was just a nice, still themed session of getting away from busyness. Let's move to the next lesson, and that is the lesson called Noticing Angels. So if we were with our Christian siblings, they would take the traditional birth legend story and take an angle out of it each time. So one Christmas, it might be the angle of being Joseph and forgiveness. Another angle, it might be Mary and strength. here's this young teenage woman accepting the child of God, and she says yes. She doesn't run and ask her father and all that stuff. But this session, and what we can do as you use, is be the shepherds in the story. And we're going about our business, aren't we? When we sit down next to our fire in the still of the night, and lo, the angel of the Lord appears with some insight, some idea, something telling us in our inner voice. Well, in the story, the angels come out, and of course there's the connection to Gloria, in Excelsis Deo, there's all those beautiful songs we sing. But in the essence of it, it's when do we notice a message that says, it's time to change something. Now, if we're the shepherds, they get up, they leave somebody, I'm sure, with the sheep, and they go following the star down to see this newborn king. That changed their lives, I'm sure. And so what we say is, how will we be guided on a journey? That's a UU insight, isn't it? By our inner voice. So we're going to play with the angels theme. And one of the things I found was a sort of Where's Waldo with the angels, which I think would be really fun for the Explore It. It's hard. So look at this. I went around and circled all the angels, and then I made a mistake. There's somebody in a yellow bunny suit instead of a yellow angel robe. So if you need a cheat sheet, you can call me, but I think you'll be able to find them. So there's that for finding angels. There's the connection to our inner voice. And then that's the angel part of the story for the traditional birth legend. The winter solstice, there's a Scientific American thing where you bring 2 candles close once they've been lit. And if you light one and bring this one close, without touching the flame, it will relight. And the religious spiritual message there is that we can kindle each other, can't we? When we're hopeless, we can rekindle each other. And so to sit there with 2 candles and to do that, it's magic. You bring it about this close and it will relight. So there's that science thing. And then I had to put in Meg Barnhouse, All Will Be Well recording. It's just fills my soul whenever I hear that. Rekindling our hope at this season. If you happen to be subscribed to the youth group program, Youth Group on the Road Together packet, I tease out the equinox and stillness in several different ways, not just rekindling hope, which as a religious educator I always used to do, but also to see what we can see when there isn't a lot of light. What insights do we get in the cave, in the shadows, when the bright light of illumination is not shining on us? Now, it's a little complicated for children, so I don't include that in the children's packet, but I put it in the youth group packet, just a little aside to look for that. And then there's some jump and freeze games, which for the Explore section, I like to get active and I like to have the kids jumping around. They're kids after all. Last session is Watch Night. And it's also called Freedom Night. This is a new thing to me. I learned about it maybe 2 years ago writing a packet. In the Black church tradition, they celebrate waiting for Lincoln to sign the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1862. And all night long, the abolitionists, the freed slaves, and those slaves, the freed enslaved Africans, and the enslaved Africans who had heard about this through the grapevine, through the underground grapevine. But of course, a lot of the enslaved Africans in the South didn't know about this right then. they were waiting because they weren't sure. And I don't think Lincoln was even sure that he was going to sign this Emancipation Proclamation. There's wonderful stuff by Smithsonian about how this changed our country and the direction of the Civil War and all that. So many Black tradition churches gather for a midnight service and celebrate Freedom's Eve. There is a watch night that was done in Methodism way early on too, which was in contrast to the drunken revelry kind of way to celebrate New Year's. The Christian temperance movement wanted a quieter thing. But Freedom's Eve was added to that when that emancipation signing was going to happen. So there's a wonderful excerpt, which I hope you'll share with your children, from Old Ship Church in Montgomery, Alabama. There's a PBS clip where he walks up to the church, walks into the service, and is there for this program. If that's a little dry for your particular group of children, like if you have mostly first graders, you might not want to use that. But in the preschool packet, I also suggest Henry's Freedom Box as a story to read, which is about the enslaved African who shipped himself off to the north and escaped that way. It's a true story. So you'll have a couple of options. And I always give permission, throw the content out, do whatever you want. But I did want to get that Freedom's Eve watch night stuff, the legitimate stuff that's going to be happening on that evening. Last thing is the family connection. I think it would be beautiful to have a Zoom where they're sharing their tree lights or the lights they have around their window, or their candle, or their special Advent lights. I think that would be something sort of show and telly that would be really beautiful. All right. There's my little overview of my feeling about the packet. And I just want to re-emphasize that this is a set of building blocks, and I know that you are really good creative people and you do it that way you want. But sometimes it helps people to get this dive in from my point of view to see what I was thinking, so you can take off. So what I'd like to do now is go into a time of what challenges are you facing right now, besides, let's say, okay, gosh, we're all exhausted. I was very grateful we had healing as our theme this month. Yeah, and wasn't it beautiful for me that Biden talked over and over about healing this country? Oh my. So anyway, we'll go into what challenges, then we'll do a little opportunities, then we'll do a little takeaway and solution. So everybody can get, let's see, we've got, I think you could get a minute. And if I can have a volunteer to hold up a smartphone that just puts a minute on so we know when the time is to stop talking. Who would like to do that for us? There goes Sam. Thank you. In the bunny ears, Sam. So all she's going to do is hold up the smartphone so you can tell when your minute is up. So first on my screen is Carol Zimmerman. Would you like to share a challenge?
I think probably like most folks, December and thinking about holiday pageant is the biggest challenge. As far as implementing the packets, I haven't delved deep enough into them to think about how I might be able to use them. So, but that's where my challenge lies.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. Next on my screen is Sam.
In looking forward to December, we're having our solstice service, and my challenge is the same every year in finding an appropriate story that all ages can tune into. So yeah, let the challenge begin on that one.
Yep. All right. Solstice story and Christmas pageant. All right. Thank you. Next on my screen is Katherine Loya.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Challenges. I too am just starting to dive into the content for December, and I'm already very deep in planning for holiday services and programming.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think my challenge right now is really looking at, we try to be really intentional about having kind of multiple avenues for engagement that complement one another, but don't assume that you're doing all of them. And so we have been doing a pick-me-up pack that families can sign up for each month that connects with our theme and in different ways. And we also have some Zoom programming, and we also have some online content. But my hope is actually to put together a pack for December that we're going to get to all of our families, not have just the subset that signs up. And so I think my challenge is thinking about what that might include and how it might tie in with our holiday services. I think the overall challenge is, how do we make this feel really special in planning a pageant and other stuff that doesn't feel like the sad Zoom version of what we once had. Thank you.
Yes, I love that sad Zoom version. Thank you, Katherine. And I love your pick-me-up packet word. That's sort of catchy. Next on my screen is Margie Waters.
Hi.
Hi.
I think our biggest challenge, we're really not doing anything with the children right now. The parents are zoomed out. They're totally exhausted. We've talked to them and tried to get their input and all, and they really don't want much. We just sent them out or delivered packets for them to make chalices. Actually, they didn't do it that way. We had a trunk or treat at the church, and cars spread out the kids, and they made their chalices there. So they were the little flower pot ones.
Yeah.
And we're looking at them to also make some extra ones that we can send to some of our congregants who are shut in, locked down, not able to participate. But we haven't done anything else. There's no story times. There's nothing with them. And I haven't looked at the packet yet. I actually just got access to it this morning. But the snowflake thing sounded really like a neat kind of idea. And I can see you can do jump and freeze on Zoom and a couple of other things. So I'm going to go back and talk to the team a little bit more and see if December is a special time. Can we do something, but can we, add the stillness and we do a solstice.
And Margie, your smartphone was held up for you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't look.
That's okay.
That's all right. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. And next on my screen is Ashley Hamlin. Hi, Ashley.
Hi. So I think my challenge has been, and especially with the theme of stillness, is that Zoom container for littles. It's really hard just to teach a concept and not have them constantly active, moving around, and have it not feel like, a school lesson. So I think that's my main challenge, is just keeping the time active. We are also doing different points of engagement. So I get a lot more engagement with the in-person events, and I'm trying to do things where we create things together on the Zoom sessions that relate to the theme or to a service, something like that. But yeah, just how do I help them engage with a concept while being really active.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Ashley. Next on my list is Heather Safford.
There we go. Unmuted. So I right now am trying to work with my team to come up with ideas for the kids. We are doing a once a month social for our like 5 kids, and youth group is still meeting in person. And we are trying to get our kids to meet in person, but with the new COVID things going on in Colorado and our numbers rising, they want to put us online. So we're scrambling to figure out what that's going to look like and if we're going to lose our kids at all completely, because we're just, the kids are just, they don't show up for service, at least not on screen. If they are in their parents' house when it's going on, we don't know. So I'm just trying to make sure our kids are still connected in with us, and just drawing on some different, you know, from the Soul Matters and from the UURE Facebook page and stuff like that. Because there's a whole bunch of pageants that people have put online, shared with us on that website that are really good, that they're saying are adaptive to Zoom. So we're going to see if any of that works for us.
Wonderful. Thank you, Heather. Next on my screen is Carla Miller. Hi, Carla.
Hi. So we are completely online. So for those of you who have had trunk or treat or any kind of gathering where people saw each other in person, that has not been happening. It hasn't been as challenging as I had anticipated in terms of the younger groups. A very small group of pre-KK who come for a 15-minute story time, and we're using your stories, and that's working well for them, and they get goofy and have fun. And the first through third and the fourth and fifth have really good attendance. So don't despair. I think they've built community and they look forward to seeing each other on Sunday morning. And they have lovely teachers, and the online format with, you know, using music, using the video stories is engaging them. So yay. December feels challenging though. And we are focusing right now, I've been focused primarily on a pageant and creating a pageant that, you know, can work online, and finding partners to do that work with me. So now that that's starting to come together, I'm thinking about Sunday mornings. We'll have some of our children on a pageant rehearsal while the others are meeting. And so the age division will change, although it will be primarily the older elementary in pageant roles and speaking roles, and then the younger kids on the other session. And I want to learn more about the resources on Stillness so that maybe we can pull from that. But I think what we will focus on will just be doing some holiday crafts and just kind of keeping it light in December. I appreciated what you said about the grieving around the holidays, Katie, and that's making me think one of those crafts and conversations should probably be around who we're going to miss this holiday and making cards for them. Nice. So that was something I hadn't thought of, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Carla. There's that smartphone looking at you. Let's see, we're jumping around a little, so I want to make sure. Becky, I don't think you've gone yet. Would you like to go? I see several chat notes.
Becky said in the chat that there is no mic, so maybe you could type.
Yeah, we can type. I can't talk, says Becky. All right, someone pay attention to what Becky's typing if she can type, and we'll see if we can help her with that. And by the way, I lurk sometimes by subscribing to your newsletters, and I have Carla's coming in, just a way to see what people are doing so that I know I'm helping provide resources that are valuable. And I recommend you ask each other if you can do that, because there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, you know? So anyway, yeah, there she goes. Becky's comfortable just listening. We're glad that you can do that. So we have solstice stories and Christmas pageants. By the way, you saw that uure.com, or no, Religious Educators Facebook pageant was called "Oh Zoom All Ye Faithful." I didn't even click it, but I thought, oh my gosh, someone's got a great idea. Oh, Zoom All Ye Faithful. Anyway, we have the littles and how we serve the littles with them being so developmentally not ready to do screen time. That's pretty much what's going on there. And we have, the thing I thought of, Heather, was your idea that there may be children running around in the background listening to services while their parents are watching. Let's take advantage of that. I just got invited to do a service as the preacher. I said, I'm a religious educator, you know that, but Waterville, Maine contacted me when they realized we could Zoom from Colorado and do a service for them. And I saw the children doing that. They'd come in, they'd listen, and then they'd go out. But you know how children, they're always keeping track of what those adults are saying. Yeah. So let's pay attention to that. That intrigues me. How about opportunities for December? Let's do the same thing. And thank you so much for paying attention to the time so that we all get a chance. About opportunities for Stillness December, something you know about. And we'll do the same thing where Katherine Loya is first on my screen.
Oh my goodness. I've been listening so much. I haven't been thinking about what I was going to say for this. So one thing I'll mention is a great book that I found that I think I'm going to make use of. And it's called Charlotte and the Quiet Place. And one of the things I love about it is that it is not a little white kid. It is an African-American family, and a girl is the primary character. And I try to be really intentional about pulling in diverse books and everything that we're using. And so I was really excited to see that one. It was not a book I was familiar with, and I just happened upon it recently. So I wanted to mention that. It's called Charlotte and the Quiet Place, which might be a nice thing to add in.
And if you get a moment, you could put it in the chat box with a link so folks can find it.
Yeah, here.
Great, because I don't know that either. I would love to look at that.
Yeah, we have a Children's Diversity and Justice Library in our congregation that we opened and we host in our church, but it's a free community lending library. And so we've got a lot of books, and this was not one I was aware of, even with all that. So
wonderful.
I just went.
Thank you, Katherine. Next on my list is Sam Dickerson.
So last year, we got a little too heavy-handed with Christmas, and this year we're trying to be much more intentional about not being so heavy-handed with Christmas. So we're taking this opportunity to pull in a lot of the various holidays with Chalaka and Hanukkah and solstice, Christmas, New Year's, Kwanzaa. And I'm starting the month off by having our different neighborhoods dropping off packages that I'm putting together with elements from all of the different holidays, with various activities, a little candle holder for Chalaka and some sort of crafty piece for Christmas, and orange with cloves to push in for solstice, and just something that they can do throughout the month. And we're starting our first service of December with all of these different holidays, and what ties them together is light. Mm-hmm. Everything is about light and how you can draw stillness from that light. So there's my timer. I'm good.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Sam, for doing your own. Okay, next on my screen is Carla.
Oh, I don't really have anything to add to this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Carla. Next on my screen is Carol Zimmerman.
So we're talking about opportunities to bring stillness. One of the things that I just met with, we have an assistant director for our program, and we were just chatting about one way that we might be able to get together in person and bring that sense of the quality of the candle lighting ceremony that we have at our church every year. And we were talking about, could we have a drive-in that would offer that opportunity, where we would have a table where folks could literally just pick up a candle for every person in their car. They could open doors, back hatches, that kind of thing. Have a little, homily around light, and then allow everyone to come together and, pass the light within their vehicle. And so we were sort of thinking about that in a way to do that. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that, Carol.
Yep.
Oh, I missed all this so much. Next on my screen is Margie Waters in her forest.
I don't have anything to add to this.
Okay, thank you, Margie. Next on my screen is Heather Safford.
Hi. So I also don't have any new ideas yet for Stillness for December. I am thinking that I'm needing to do some kind of holiday thing, but I haven't even talked to the minister and worship team yet about it, because I'm not a full DRE, so they don't expect me to have to do all this stuff. And I'm also glad I'm also glad that we are not doing something in person with candles that I know of, because last year during this, I don't remember what it was, but the theme was about quietness and special moments. And we lit candles and passed the flame around the sanctuary. And my son lit his jacket on fire during service. So anyway, so I'm just kind of glad we're not doing that this year. It was a quite interesting moment of running across the sanctuary to put my son out, but no injury, just the coat. So yeah, that kind of made it not so quiet. So I'll always have that to laugh about. And yeah, anyway, I have nothing new, sorry.
Okay, well, thank you for that little cautionary note too. I know a minister who backed up into the flames and her robe caught on fire, and she was smoking in the back and not realizing it until she was looking at the audience's, shocked faces, and someone finally stood up and said, "Reverend Catherine, your robe is on fire." Anyway, another little fire stories, yes. Next on my screen is Ashley Hamlin.
So we are doing, with our program council committee, coordinating an outdoor tree decorating event where people will have a week to come and just decorate shrubbery or trees on the fellowship grounds. And then we'll have a gathering. And I am thinking of doing a little RE porch drop-off package for kids. I usually do a monthly mailing, but I would do like a little package for the holiday season and include materials for building a lantern so that they can also bring that for that time if they want to. So just as, and it'll stay up through December so people can walk the grounds and just enjoy the decorations.
Oh, lovely. And the lamp in every corner would be such a pretty story to use with that. Oh my, yes. And Becky's listening, and is there anyone I've missed? I think we're all good. So I just wanted to mention that when we do the orange and cloves thing for solstice, it smells so good. And yet I find the children get really tired if they have a whole orange. So I gave them kumquats. So it only takes about 8 to 10 cloves to stick a kumquat full of cloves. And they seem to really like that. It still smells the same. Drive-in candles and outdoor tree decorating, lots of good things. The last part of this, we do takeaways, any further reflections on something you've heard someone say, something that's a solution. I just wanted to mention with the littles, I think she's maybe lurking. I recommend doing them with the parents, so the children are sitting in their parents' lap, those little guys. It just seems to be more comforting. Since they're not developmentally able to understand this whole screen thing, but to sit in your parents' lap, that's a nice time anyway, to listen to a story or to reflect and do the things that they are able to do. Okay, so let's start from the bottom. Let's see, Heather, let's start with you. Takeaways, solutions, further reflections, and this will just be a minute.
Okay, actually, what I wanted to put out a food for thought. I'm really enjoying the Soul Matters packets. And our kids did crossing paths last year. So I'm wondering if, because I know you don't have a separate middle school packet because of the crossing paths, if occasionally there's something in here that would, like, most of the ideas are easily, the middle schools will love them anyway, but just a little bit more. I don't know if, like, sometimes if there's room for more depth for the junior high mind kind of thing, just little tidbits in each section maybe, or as appropriate, to just kind of, for deeper thought, try asking your kids this, or, that kind of thing. So that's something I would appreciate if possible.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do hear those things. Margie.
I'm very glad I joined today because I heard a lot of interesting ideas, which made me start thinking about what we could do. The candle lighting has always been a really big part of what we do. We don't have any pageants or anything like that. So that's the time that we all come together, and thinking about how we could do that on Zoom, passing a candle perhaps to the next person, as if you were passing it. And electric lights, though, I agree on that one. So, and I still like those chalice snowflakes. I think that's more of a challenge for the parents than the kids, but for family activity. So.
Yeah. Great, Margie, thank you. And don't forget, those chalice snowflakes, they're pretty cool because they have chalices in them, but just making those snowflakes, when you preform cutting, it's just a classic kid culture, beautiful thing to do, isn't it? Great, thanks, Margie. How about Carla?
I really like the idea of the outdoor tree and having people come by and hang their ornaments. And one of the things I've been kind of struggling with is we were letting go of the mitten tree tradition. And that's a way that we could do our mitten tree as well. So I pick up a lot from all of you, and I really appreciate hearing this sharing. And the snowflake is really cool, Katie. So I'm going to try that one out. Like Heather, I am not using crossing paths this year with middle school because we did it last year. And I've been pulling from the teen packet because I have a lot of 8th graders. But I also have a pretty good group of 6th graders. And with middle school, it is always hard to find what fits in the middle there. They're two different worlds, I think. And we are finding some things in the teen packet that are helpful, like the session on Friends we just did last week. They really related to. And so that's a thought.
So noted. it's hard to know because also get feedback saying my group's first and second graders. What do I do? But I do know, I mean, I love middle schoolers, and maybe I'll find some things to throw in there. Sometimes they're 2 and sometimes they're 21. So boy, either packet. Have you tried the preschool packet, by the way, for middle school? Okay, next on my list is Carol.
I guess I'm really just appreciating thinking about, yeah, just the knowledge that's in this space and the ideas that are shared. And I guess I wanted to share one of the things that we did. We did a Stuffie sleepover, and we've decided to carry the Stuffie sleepover. We did that in September when we didn't do too much around our themes, but we've decided to carry the Stuffie sleepovers. And so I've created postcards that we're sending home to families every week or every month. And so they have and those are our stuffed animals that actually hosted our sleepover. And so I've created images and the monthly theme. And so they're doing things that have, and they're in our nursery. And so I've created postcards that will go home every month that will have inspiration for the kids to do.
Can you post that on the Facebook group too? I mean, are you comfortable doing that?
Sure, I can. Yeah, I can do that.
Beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, they were fun to create. I mean, they were just fun to like imagine, what could I do for stillness? What could I do for imagination? And and then what I'm going to do is have teachers actually, help me send them home. Get our teaching team to actually write the postcards for the kids.
And how did you make the postcards?
I actually went to the UPS store. I just had the UPS store do it. And then I also put on the back side of the postcard, I put a QR code using the Soul Matters materials for a Padlet. And so I actually put the QR code on the back side of it so that they could go and visit the Padlets that I'm creating for each month. So, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That was worth the price of admission, wasn't it? That's great. Oh, I love those. Yeah, if you could share that, I'm gonna definitely highlight this so people can get that idea. Wonderful, Carol. Thank you. And Ashley, would you like to share a solution takeaway?
I don't have. I think I'm looking forward to looking into Charlotte and the Quiet Place. That sounds like a really good resource and story, and I just appreciate hearing everyone's ideas.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I think that's everyone who's still with us. Yes. We haven't heard from Sam. Oh, of course.
Still here.
Thank you.
I'm hiding behind my phone. Katie, I appreciate the reminder on the Christmas pledge. And I think that might offer a bit of solace going into this holiday season, and maybe relieving some of the pressure of we have to do this, and letting people think outside the box, and maybe even coming up with new traditions for their holiday. Yeah, and the electric candles, we went electric 2 years ago. We had a wildfire come extremely too close to our building. We were in the evac area, and we had a lot of families that had been evacuated from their homes, people losing homes. So it's been, yeah, we want to remove the trauma and still celebrate. So for anyone that's in the fire-prone areas, we recommend electric candles.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, and isn't that the most beautiful thing is to look at. I used to wish as a girl that our electricity would go out so we could have a candlelight dinner. And maybe that's something we could suggest to our families, something as simple as don't forget to turn off the lights and have a candlelight dinner, whether it's electric light, candlelight flickering, or real candles. And bring that sense of the candlelight service into your home. Yeah. that's a piece I put in the Stillness packet for Chalice Home too, if you happen to be a subscriber for Chalice Home. That's going to be coming out in a few days. Oh my, what a good, rich session. So this will be posted in case you want to share the link. I'll post it on the Facebook page. It's our Soul Matters Sharing Circle YouTube channel. And here's our closing by the wonderful Mary Oliver. I'm taking the day off, quiet as a feather. I hardly move, though really I'm traveling a terrific distance. Stillness, one of the doors into the temple. Well, blessed be everyone. I will be glad to stay on a little later, but I'm going to turn off the recording now. If I can find this thing, there we go.